Hello and welcome to another edition of Currently in Quincy. I'm Joe Catalano, and on today's show, the car doctor, John Paul from AAA Northeast, will join us and chat about how the pandemic has impacted the transportation and travel industries. First, though, we check weather and news for you. Currently in Quincy, lots of sunshine. It's already 77 degrees. Going to be a warm one today, starting at a pretty nice stretch of weather. Highs today up into the mid-80s, but still nice and dry. Should be another comfortable night tonight under partly cloudy skies, lows into the mid-60s. Things a little more unsettled tomorrow. Chance for some pop-up thunderstorms. It'll be more humid tomorrow with highs in the upper 80s. For Dad on Sunday, pretty nice. Partly sunny, drier again with highs Sunday into the upper 80s. And then the real hot stuff moves in here on Monday, the first full day of summer, actually. Hazy, hot, and humid. Highs Monday into the low 90s. But again, we have sunshine, 77 in Quincy right now. In the news today, 3 new developments representing $300 million in investment are being proposed for the westerly side of Hancock Street in Quincy Center. During a press conference at Quincy City Hall yesterday, Mayor Thomas Koch introduced developers Sam Slater and Joey Arcari, who are planning to develop 3 residential buildings and a performing arts center. Slater said he is especially excited about the arts center.
In my view, people flock to cities for culture, right? And I think what the mayor's doing by taking the lead here on bringing a cultural center to Quincy is phenomenal, and really applaud him for that. Outside of that, I'm a movie enthusiast myself, as was mentioned, and also served a term on the board of the Mass Cultural Council, and do have passion and experience in the arts outside of real estate. So the opportunity to work on something like this is thrilling, first of all. So we really look forward to working more with the city, with the community, on developing what this incredible building will look like and how it will be programmed more specifically, and how the public will use it and access it. But we're thrilled to be taking that on.
The Arts Center would be located on what's now known as the Messina lot. Residential buildings are also planned at the site of the Arcade building and the Family Dollar store. The city would also take property that's currently housing a donut shop and a Taekwondo studio, transform that into a public park. Parts of the plan require approval from the City Council, but the developers hope to begin work late next year or in early 2023. The Quincy City Council Finance Committee has approved of Mayor Thomas Koch's plan to borrow $475 million to pay off the city's pension obligations, but the proposal still faces another hurdle. Councilors this week voted 5-3 in favor of the plan, with councilors Ann Mahoney, Ian Kane, and Nina Liang opposed. Liang said she felt the plan was just too risky.
I'm disappointed to hear that, we have a 7-year agreement that we just entered into with Makita. It sounds like we had a lot more flexibility had we, moved those funds into PRIM. And again, something I'm really excited to learn more about as well. Not a reflection at all on the retirement board. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I'm learning a lot more about this process. And I'm really excited to see, in the future, if we are able to move the funds outside of Makita into PRIM. I think that it sounds like anyway, something to our benefit. The other piece of that, though, that is really concerning to me is that, we have not yet invested in PRIM yet. And while the numbers look good and while there's a lot of flexibility there that I appreciate, because again, I want to be able to take my money out when it's not earning what I want it to, right, and invest it elsewhere. I want that kind of flexibility. As it stands today, with the rates being so low, again, I'm not comfortable with having such a large investment go into whether it's PRIM or Makita, right? Knowing that interest rates are low everywhere, right? They're low if you want to borrow. They're also low if you want to invest. And that's where my concern ultimately is that if and when the time comes and, the market fluctuates so much so that it's to a disadvantage, even more so that the interest and returns that we're getting are even lower than what they, potentially are right now, we're now going to have to not only pay back the interest on the bond that we're taking out, we're also going to now have to pay back the difference an even larger difference, right, in the unfunded liability that we currently bonded for.
Now, the committee did change the term of the bond from 30 down to 20 years in an effort to lower interest payments. However, the measure requires 6 councilors to vote in favor in order for final approval. The full council is expected to take up the matter on Monday night. City Council this week did approve of Mayor Thomas Koch's plan to purchase the Adams Academy building and 2 adjacent vacant properties on Adams Street in Quincy Center for $9 million. Those funds would come from the community preservation account. The mayor hopes to create a presidential library to house a collection of books owned by President John Adams. Quincy City Solicitor Jim Timmons says that taking the property by eminent domain will settle a claim from the Woodward School for Girls that it owns the Adams Academy property.
With Adams Academy is that when John Adams conveyed the property where that now stands, he conveyed that lot as part of one conveyance. And then within it, he said, I would like a school built on this site, but the money to build the school was not available. He also conveyed in a separate conveyance 2 large pastures of land, he referred to them at the time in his deed. And the plan was that the income from those pastures would accrue in a trust fund. And then once there was adequate money to build the school was to be built. And that's exactly what occurred. So the conveyance of the land itself, the lot itself, was to the town of Quincy as a municipal corporation and its municipal status. So it was President Adams' clear intention to convey the land itself to the city.
Mayor says that future plans for the site are still being worked out. However, he pledged that the Quincy Historical Society, now in the Adams Academy building, will always have a home in Quincy Center. A drive is being held tomorrow to try and find a bone marrow donor for Quincy High School students with a rare life-threatening illness. 18-year-old student athlete Priscilla Bonica is suffering from a rare autoimmune disorder. It causes inflammation throughout her body, but mostly her brain. Her family says that she has had transfusions and is undergoing intense treatments, but that the prognosis, they say, is grim without a bone marrow transplant. The registry drive be held tomorrow from 11 to 3 in the lot on Russell Park, right behind Quincy High School. The procedure involves just a cheek swab and some paperwork. Her family's hoping that a bone marrow match can be found soon. Coming up, John Paul, the car doctor from AAA Northeast, next.
I was vaccinated.
I got the vaccine.
I am fully vaccinated.
I feel safer. Enjoy your lunch. It's about protecting not just yourself, but the people around you.
The vaccine is safe.
I did my own research.
Trust the wisdom of the people preparing the vaccine, testing the vaccine.
It's the best way to get us back to a more normal way of living.
Friends that didn't want to take it before, they were like, oh, well, you're fine. That means I could be fine as well.
I'm protecting my family,
Neighbors, coworkers.
My patients. Trust the facts. Get the vax.
Whoa, how is he so good at interviewing?
He took QATV's interviewing course, of course.
I certainly did. I learned how to prepare an interview, the do's and don'ts of interviewing, and the best questions to ask to make an impact on viewers. And now, I know how to conduct a good interview with anyone. To register for a session, email Carol Themin at cthemin@qatv.org or call 617-376-1440.
Looking for a safe place for girls to get inspired, seek out new challenges, build important skills, and take the lead? That's the Girl Scouts. where every girl has the space and support to reach their full potential. Girl Scouts prepares girls to be their best, bravest, boldest selves. The benefits go beyond the badges and awards they earn to recognition of the new skills they learn. Whether it's finishing a school project, making a new friend, or speaking up for what's right, a Girl Scout faces the world with confidence and optimism. Troops are forming now. Join today.
Really happy to welcome to the program today the car doctor, John Paul from AAA Northeast, is joining us to chat all things travel and in studio. John, good to see you.
Good to be here. This is my first time in a studio in a year and a half since the beginning of the pandemic, so it's great to be here.
We are honored to have you as our in-studio guest, and we're going to be doing a lot more of that too in the future. We look forward to that as well. There's nothing like face-to-face.
No, it really is. As much as all of those other ways to communicate, it's always good when you can actually see the person and, see if you make a mistake by their facial expressions, things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. How's AAA been functioning during the pandemic?
Amazingly well. Yeah. We have a total between 5 states. We have about 3,000 employees, and when all the pandemic first started, our boss was smart enough to try to buy every laptop computer that could be found anywhere, and pretty much sent everybody home. And I think we had, not counting road service people that go out and do the road service calls, I think we had 2,600 people working from home, and our main building in Providence, Rhode Island, that normally during the day houses 550 people. The last time I was there, I think there was 12.
It's amazing.
Yeah, but we're coming back. The plan is that people will come back at least in a hybrid fashion, probably in September.
Yeah.
But some of the work-at-home people that fill in some of the odd shifts, for instance, call receivers for emergency road service, that may be a little bit hard to fill at, 4 in the afternoon till 8 at night sort of thing, that work at home. This has worked out really well. We've found that people are a lot more flexible because they can be home at that time without having to worry about rushing in and rushing out. So it's worked out really well. And our road service folks have, been out doing the job. We've kind of had to make a few changes. Originally, if you broke down by the side of the road, for instance, you can't socially distance inside a cab of a truck.
Right.
So we'll usually send someone to pick you up.
Okay.
Or we'll make arrangements with Uber or Lyft or something like that to try to.
They're as much first responders as anybody else.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We've tried to take care of all of that sort of thing and try to keep our drivers safe.
Sure.
And we also want to make sure we keep our members safe, because you never know, our driver could be, non-symptomatic, and you don't want them to give anything to somebody else. So we put a lot of steps in place of sanitizing and making sure everybody had, masks and gloves and hand sanitizer and all that sort of stuff. So, but it's worked out okay, and we usually, set the expectation right from the very beginning, and we'll never leave anybody by the side of the road.
Right.
So, if we can't find a ride, then we'll do the best we can to make sure that we can at least bring them someplace safe and then get their car to where it has to go. But for the most part, when somebody says, my car's broken down in my driveway, then it's nice and easy. We just take it to wherever it has to go, and sometimes take it back if they have to. So, yeah.
Were you impacted at all by the Registry of Motor Vehicles going completely virtual?
Not really, because once we could open our offices back in whenever it was, May of last year or June of last year, with very limited amounts of people, we did the same thing the registry did. We just set appointments.
Oh, all right.
And and even talking to people at the registry with the drop-off for license plates now and all that, they said it's working out so well they may never go back to doing it the other way. So it's worked out well. So we still do driver's license renewals and registration renewals and Real ID, and we have that little bit of a breathing room now where they extended the Real ID deadlines. So people are still coming in, and we're still recommending if if your license is going to be renewed and you want, you are a traveler and you travel periodically, or you need to go in and out of a federal building or something like that.
Yep.
Certainly, get the real ID, just bring all the paperwork. And for the most part, getting all the paperwork straightened out is just a matter of really just paying attention to the directions.
Yes.
And
and finding your birth certificate shoved in the back of a file cabinet somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that can always be a little bit of a challenge sometimes. My wife's birth certificate or marriage license, we couldn't find it. We got it duplicated 10 or 15 years ago, and for some reason on the new one it had her maiden name instead of her married name. And she's like, but and
you just have to get married again, John.
Yeah. So we had a there was a whole little rigmarole to go through because that didn't follow the proper steps.
Yeah.
Fortunately, she had a passport, and the passport kind of overrode
Which is
that.
always
So,
good.
yeah. So for people with passports, it makes it really easy. But for people that maybe have been in this country a long time, but maybe never became a citizen, or when they did, they never realized what they needed. I was talking to a woman in her late 70s that came here from Italy when she was 5, and she literally has a handwritten birth certificate from some little town in Italy.
Yep.
And the RMV looked at that and went, I don't think so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, they're and she's still working on trying to get that all resolved.
Okay.
So, yeah.
One thing that is back to, seems like anyway, normal is traffic.
Yeah, it certainly is. I was going in and out of Boston a couple weeks ago, and I was just amazed at the amount of traffic. And I forgot how aggressive Boston drivers are.
They didn't forget.
They didn't forget, but I guess I did.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of traffic still.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, though, it still seems to lighten up a little bit here and there. Like there are people that are kind of working a hybrid schedule, it seems like. So. But yeah, traffic's back, and what we've been trying to remind people, probably for the last 6 or 8 months or so, is your car probably really hasn't been driven as much as it used to. So get it in for service, have it checked out. I always joke once the pandemic started that what we always referred to as MPG, miles per gallon, started to mean months per gallon, because people weren't really driving that much. And brakes can suffer from not being used, tires, maybe you hit a pothole in the wintertime, you didn't think anything of it, and you're going to plan that vacation trip, and you want to make sure that everything's in good shape that may have suffered a little bit from sitting still.
Even the gas might have gotten stale, right?
I mean, a few months of sitting with the original gas in it can start to have some drivability effects. Sometimes it might turn on a check engine light and there's really nothing wrong with the car other than the gasoline got a little bit stale, and a couple of fresh tanks of gas will usually remedy that. But
speaking of gas,
are
we looking at least $3 a gallon, do you think?
It certainly seems we're awfully close all around here. We're a little over $3 a gallon in Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey right now. So all tax related more than here, but certainly the wholesale price of gasoline on the mercantile exchange where it trades is about, I think this morning when I looked, it was $2.30 a gallon, and then you add in transportation and markup, it's going to be $3 a gallon. I mean, that's really what it's going to come down to. And we've seen the highest crude oil prices in probably the past 29 months or so.
Yes.
So I think 2018 was the last time we saw crude oil this high. And crude oil is about 60% of the cost of gasoline. So when crude oil goes up, and there's a lot of reasons for it. Some of it's geopolitical that I don't even pretend to understand, the Iran nuclear treaty and all that, and Iran's not shipping crude oil right now, and that can affect it, but it comes right down to supply and demand. And with the demand stronger because more people are traveling and more people are out, and the prices tend to go up. And even when they come down, they always go up fast and they come down slowly because the gas stations have to try to anticipate the increase because they have to pay for that 10,000 gallons worth of gasoline they just got delivered. When the prices start to come down, that's where the profit's made. So when they're charging $3 a gallon for gasoline that they paid less for, the longer they can kind of hold out until kind of the local market drives the price back down, the more profit they make. Yeah. And there was a time not that many years ago that if you talk to a gas station owner, and they sort of pay almost with a credit card when the tanker truck comes in, and they didn't make enough money on the sales of the gasoline in the tank in the ground to pay for what was coming out of the tank. So there might have been 7 or 8 months that they were running kind of a deficit, and then there's 4 or 5 months where they made some profit that made up for that. So when they average it all out, when you hear gas station owners going, we're making 4 or 5 cents a gallon, there was times where that was really the case.
Yeah. We're in the midst of what you call the 100 deadliest days.
Yeah, you know, it's a unfortunate time between Labor Day or Memorial Day and Labor Day when we see driving deaths go up, and especially with young, inexperienced drivers. And there's a lot of reasons. I mean, even prior to the pandemic, you know, kids were in school, they weren't really driving, they get out, they have summer, they're out, and kids in general don't have the ability to assess risk the same way adults do. So our brain doesn't fully develop until you're 25 or 26 years old. So when you see kids doing something that doesn't seem like it makes sense to us, it's because it doesn't, that part of their brain that says it's okay to do that hasn't developed yet. So so we see a lot of crashes. It's interesting that a lot of younger drivers do a really good job, 21, 25-year-olds. They would never think of getting in a car with somebody who's been drinking. They have designated drivers. They just kind of plan ahead. But they don't think about anything. They don't think about it when it comes to marijuana use. And that's one of the things that we've found is that same group of young people that would say, I would never get in a car with somebody who's been drinking. How about somebody who just, smoked a joint? And they're like, oh, yeah, what's the problem?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
because it impairs your abilities just as much. Right?
Yeah, and it really, besides the physical impairment, slower reaction times and blurred vision and all that sort of stuff, it's the cognitive part, it's the decision making. So it's the same as the old expression of one for the road. You have that one extra drink because that part of your brain that says, oh, I can have one more, I'm fine. If in the beginning of your drinking evening, you'd probably say, no, that would be crazy to do. But yeah, so that's that's one of the things. So at AAA, what we're doing is on our AAA Facebook page, every day for the 100 days, we're having some kind of a message to try to help keep people safe. It could be videos on safe driving. It could be just some safety tips. I did a couple of videos to talk about how technology, both in the car and aftermarket, can help keep kids safe. Ford has the My Key program where you can literally program the key that the car can only go so fast, the radio volume can only be so high. GM has a teen driver program where it does very similar things but also issues a report card.
Oh, okay.
So kind of how fast the car's gone, how quickly it stopped, things like that. And then there's some aftermarket companies. There's one called TrueMotion Family where you download an app in your phone, and it basically does kind of the same thing. How many panic stops, how many hard accelerations, things that are in your phone already that they've tweaked to be able to make it all work. And it's a free app, and everybody in the family can kind of sign up for it. That way, the teen can go, hey, Mom, I was just looking at the report card, and apparently you were speeding, and so it kind of all works together.
Right.
So
it'll hold you accountable, basically.
Yeah. And then there's and then a lot of times, the teen's car is the parent's hand-me-down car. And what we try to tell parents of younger teens is, if that is your plan, maybe your next car that you want to buy should be a little safer, have more technology in it, because that's the car you're going to give your 17 or 18-year-old in 3 or 4 years. So add the extra safety technology, like not just anti-lock brakes, but automatic emergency braking, where if the car in front of you stops and you're not paying attention, it's going to slow down or stop the car. Better blind spot monitors, cross traffic alert, smarter cruise control, things like that. And look at, maybe you were looking at different SUVs, try to find the one with the safest crash test rating, because that may be the car that your kid's going to go into. So we've tried to help parents come up with sort of a list of safer cars for teens.
Okay. Speaking of cars, they're expensive and getting more so every single day, John. What is going on with the price of new and used vehicles, actually?
The average price of a new car today, I think, just crossed the $42,000 barrier.
Really?
Yeah. So now that's an average, of course, and
so half or more, half or less.
Yeah, exactly. But that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And one of the reasons too is because of the semiconductor shortage.
Yes.
Prices are going up because availability isn't there.
Yep.
And that has also impacted the used car market. I just read this morning that used car prices are up 32% over last year.
That's amazing.
Now there isn't as much inventory, which is one of, going almost like gasoline, supply and demand. And what happened was, at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of people decided not to take public transportation, so they went out and tried to find used cars. That kicked up the prices. Other people that maybe had more than one home, so they lived in, the city in New York, but they have a lake house or a Cape house or something like that, and they moved there figuring it was going to be safer with less people around, and they're like, I didn't have a car in the city. Now I need a car. So that has certainly impacted the used car prices. And the other part, and it's sort of travel related, is a lot of cars on the used car market were former rent-a-cars, were former Hertz and Avis and all of those. Well, a lot of those companies filed bankruptcy back in the beginning of the pandemic.
Nobody was traveling, nobody needed a rental
so
car,
they cut down their fleet. And without that fleet turning over, those cars didn't go into the used car market. So that has had a kind of interesting effect on it as well. I read a couple of times over the past 6 or 8 months, used cars got so tight that people would go to the local U-Haul and rent a pickup truck because they couldn't get a car from Hertz or Avis.
Really?
Yeah. So, So I can't imagine, a 20-foot box truck to go sightseeing in, but I guess some people have, and I talked to somebody just the other day who said they tried to rent a car, and all they really want to do is rent it for one day to get from the airport or near the airport to their friend's home. And they ended up renting one of those 90-minute rentals from the home improvement store.
No kidding.
Yeah, so they took an Uber to the home improvement store, and then
got one of
those, and then drove it and then dropped it off at the home improvement store near the house of the person they were going to visit. So
just to have some transportation. Huh, I wonder if it'll signal a comeback for the taxi industry or
it very well could be. All of these things together, I think, will. So, but as we're starting to see the world coming back together again, and more travel, more people going back and forth to work, the city starting to kind of open up and fill up with people. I think we'll see more of that, and then. As I think Hertz filed bankruptcy, but I guess they've secured enough funding now where they're sort of out of bankruptcy, I guess, or in that stage where they're out of bankruptcy. So they'll probably start fortifying their fleet. But what we've told people that are traveling, kind of expect changes. So if you made a flight reservation 4 or 5 months ago, don't be surprised if it gets changed a couple of times between the time you made it and the time you're leaving. Because the airlines are trying to be as efficient as possible, and they might have had a morning and an afternoon flight, and they're going to cram everybody in the afternoon flight because that financially made more sense. So changes are fairly common still.
It's probably a good idea more than ever to use a travel agent.
Yeah, it really is. Where you can have somebody, call on your behalf. At the beginning of the pandemic, our travel agents, pretty much all they did was change people's travel dates for them.
Right.
We didn't, in fact, we didn't even say, cancel. We just said postpone. Let's postpone it. And for the people who didn't want to postpone, there was some question on whether your travel insurance was going to pay for pandemic-related cases, and we have a really good relationship with our travel insurance people. And even if that was in the clause, we said, you really need to do something about this.
Okay.
And we really tried to help people where they could. Where if you're doing it online by yourself, who are you going to call?
Exactly. Yeah. When you have the power of an agency like yours and the buying power behind it, they're gonna move on it.
Yeah.
Good advice. Good advice for sure. 4th of July is coming up, John.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
What is AAA anticipating?
Well, we think it's going to be. It was fairly busy last year during the height of the pandemic. And we expect it to be equally as busy. We had a very busy Memorial Day. There was 37 million people traveling over Memorial Day.
Even though it was a complete washout for the whole weekend.
But on the other hand, there was still a lot of people traveling. And talking to the folks at the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, if you haven't made a reservation to rent a cottage or a hotel room, you're probably not going to get one. That's what they're saying. So the big concern always is there going to be enough help to satisfy all the people that are coming there? That's
an issue in non-pandemic years.
That's exactly so. So 4th of July travel, we'll know more by next week. We'll have our surveys back to really know what's going on with 4th of July travel. But based on what we've seen coming out of January going forward, just this past week, TSA put 2 million people through the checkpoints in one day, and that's the highest number we've seen in the past year and a half. So people are certainly going back to travel.
Is it domestic more than international?
Yeah, international travel is still a little on the sketchy side. People aren't quite sure what to do yet. One of my coworkers had planned to go to Italy last year. Her trip, she canceled it. She's trying again this year, so she's hoping for the best. Canadian travel is starting to open up, so you can go in and out of Canada a little bit easier now. I think that just opened up this past week. So we're starting to see a little bit more of that. Places like Aruba, the Dominican Republic, they seem to be a step ahead when it came to the pandemic. So they were taking sort of a lot of extra steps, especially Aruba, where people felt much more comfortable going to Aruba than maybe going to the UK, for instance. So So
it's an island.
No, it's an island. Yeah.
I mean, we saw Hawaii had really good success.
Yeah, and for people who went to Hawaii, it was sort of interesting because I was talking to somebody who went, and they said, you really had to quarantine for 2 weeks.
And they weren't messing around.
And if you snuck out of your hotel, they would report you. So they said it was kind of. It was a little frustrating.
A little Big Brother-ish.
I said, but you get to look out the window and look at palm trees in the ocean, so it made it a little bit better. But so that was some of the challenges that we've faced. But I really do think we're going to see a lot of people traveling, and I think people are starting to feel a little bit more relaxed, knowing that the percentage of people being vaccinated, the numbers are going up a little bit all the time, and people are starting to feel a little bit more relaxed, I think, with it. So
tourism is a key industry in a lot, including Boston.
It certainly is, and whether it's Boston, Cape Cod, the Lakes regions up in New Hampshire, that kind of Rhode Island into the Connecticut coast, the beaches down there, they're all big tourist destinations, and out in the Berkshires as well. Summer out in the Berkshires is a big time. So getting people back to travel, and people want to travel. That's what it really comes down to. People, again, we called it revenge travel. And I thought that was kind of a funny term, but it really is. People are like, no, I created, just sitting at home for the past year and a half, I created a bucket list of places I want to go, and I'm going.
That's it. Time is ticking.
Exactly.
Good place to get a hold of you, John?
Always the easiest way to get a hold of me, go to AAA.com/cardoctor. and you can read some of the stuff I've written, but also there's a space there where you can ask a question. I answer every single question I get, even the crazy ones.
Okay.
But I answer every single question I get with a personal response. So
Nice.
AAA.com/Car Doctor.
All right. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
We'll have you back again in studio.
In studio. Perfect.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Take another quick break here. Back with more of the program in just a moment. Recapping the forecast for the rest of the day today, lots of sunshine and mild temperatures climbing into the mid-80s this afternoon. Another comfortable night tonight, not as cool as it has been, but still dry. Lows tonight into the mid-60s. We start the warm-up tomorrow, maybe some scattered storms, 87 for a high. About the same thing on Sunday, but no storms around. Then we turn hot and humid with highs in the low 90s on Monday. Thanks again going out to John Paul for joining us today. Thank you to our crew and thank you for watching. On Monday at 11:30, we'll welcome Quincy College Board of Governors Chairman Paul Barbadoro. Reminder for you, please visit our website anytime. It's qatv.org. Get our latest programs there, news and information, video on demand, live streaming, and a whole lot more. For all of us here at Quincy Access Television, I'm Joe Catalano. Please stay safe.